What is up, Coffee Nation? It's ya boy, Iced Coffee Gaming. And what we want to do in this video, is talk about favoritism and babying. Because I feel like these are two different things that people use interchangeably, and I think that's a mistake. Alright, so babying is the act of taking a unit, like let's say for example Anna, and power leveling her to bring her up to speed on your team. That's an example of babying, 100%. You could argue it's favoritism, but I'm going to define these terms differently. So babying is treating a unit in a very special / accommodating manner where the unit cannot secure kills or function well. So in the case of Anna, she can still kind of do okay, but she does need some XP feeding early on for just like a chapter or two, just to bring her up to speed, and then she becomes like a relevant unit. So that's an example of babying. Now favoritism is giving a unit extra resources out of bias for a specific build, or to power creep a unit manually. Or in some cases it's subconscious, which is really where I feel like players don't analyze their own play, and they're just like, oh well, you know, Kagetsu's the best unit because he's really fast and he does this, and then they just subconsciously have him kill more things than other units, then he power levels more than other units, and then he snowballs well beyond other units. Now he is a strong unit, I'm not saying he's not a good unit, but I do feel like he is a little bit overhyped. I do still think he's S tier, but I don't think he's like that much higher. Like he's like slightly better than some of the other good units in the game in some ways. But because people think he's good, they want to use him more, they want to get him more kills, they get him more kills at power levels. And I think there is always this degree of subconscious favoritism in every player's run that they're probably not even aware of, because they probably don't actually analyze how many kills they're feeding to each unit. Some players do. I'm sure there are some players who are very methodical, but there's always some degree of favoritism, whether it be like the unit. So for example, you could argue I have Chloe favoritism, even though she doesn't have an emblem ring right now. So I'm kind of contradicting myself in a way. However, I do run her on most of my runs. I feel like she's one of the best early to mid game units and a really solid end game unit with Lance Power. And she's about to get Lance Power 5 after I beat this map. So she's going to be a hard carry for her entire life. Is that favoritism? There's a mixture of favoritism and unit effectiveness there. I did intentionally feed her kills on this run, so you could argue that I executed favoritism, but not babying. So babying is the act of accommodation. Favoritism is the act of doubling down on something. So for example, some people make the argument that Tamara requires babying to be effective. I don't think that's true. She does benefit. Every unit benefits from favoritism. No unit uniquely benefits from favoritism. Every single unit in the entire game benefits from it. So I don't like the argument that Tamara is a bad unit because she needs favoritism, but every other unit who also just is handed favoritism is a good unit. It's like the argument kind of falls apart, because if you just use Tamara, she will start to level up, especially in paralogs. Paralogs power level her, and as she power levels, like any unit, she'll start to pop off. Like right now, she's 31 base speed. Well, I'm sorry, 26 base speed. 31 speed at base with a buff. 31 speed this early. Let's look at the speeds of these guys. She's very fast right now. This is a no DLC base game run, where I am allowing the well, which is base game. So just with the well, she's speed +5. The well Lance, she's decent. She has 38 attack, which is pretty good at this point in time. And she also can start sandstorming, so she has 30 defense. She has good stats. This is an example of like a unit who has experienced some degree of favoritism. And then I'm also using Gold Mary, who just got Gentility. I could get her Gentility Plus, which would reduce her damage even further, reduce the damage she takes. She's at 24 speed. So here, this is a 7-man run. This unit has been babied and then like has experienced favoritism, and then all of these units have basically indirectly experienced favoritism because I'm running 7 units. So because I'm running fewer units, this is like the direct result of raw favoritism on units, where everything gets power leveled as a result of there being less things competing for XP. And competing for XP is something that I don't think very many players talk about, and I don't see it discussed often, where it's like, oh, use these units because they're the best. But it's like, okay, but if you keep feeding them like more XP than other units, you're going to... It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're basically creating the conditions through which a unit power levels... Like any unit that's fed a ton of kills will become a monster. Very few units will not. So especially units that are like in A to S tier, they'll become like borderline God tier if they just keep getting fed. So this idea that certain units are just like bad because you need to show favoritism, honestly, it's just like a bias for the most part. Like if a unit has effectiveness, if it has like a provable build, if it doesn't require babying to get online, then you can kind of like prove that that unit is relevant and does things. Like right here, she's able to deal, 26 damage, double a dude with the javelin. I could have changed her position, but look at that. She triggered a sandstorm, she killed the guy. So is that RNG? To some degree. Her dex is 26. She has roughly like a 40 to 50% chance for a single sandstorm to appear in that instance. But if I just would have switched her in Fram's position, she could have one-rounded that dude. Let's actually test that. This is an example of a unit who's had favoritism, but arguably any power carry on your team will have favoritism applied to them. All right, so now she hits 17 times 2. I could pop Ike to take 5 damage, and then she can hold down this entire front by herself. So, is giving the unit an emblem bring favoritism? I don't think so. I think that's just part of the game. But she's still able to deal good damage even off Sandstorm. She can tank. So here's an example of favoritism. Then, of course, you have this Chloe with Lance Power. She can deal a little bit of damage to these armors, but she could definitely clean up this kill, for example. So let's just clean up this kill. Okay, so the difference between them is that you can do both, and that one is accommodation and the other is investment. So that's the difference, right? Accommodation and investment. Accommodation is someone can't do something, so you have to make it easier for them. So let's say you're extremely short and you're expected to jump up and climb a wall that's very tall. You might give them like a stool so they can jump up a little bit higher. That's an accommodation. So that's what babying is. Favoritism would just be like you're some top tier athlete and now you're taking steroids. That's like an investment. Or maybe you invest in like, I don't know, massage sessions to massage their muscles so that their muscles recover faster. That would be like a less illegal and getting banned from a sport way of investing in something. Okay. So I've already gone over if you feed a unit a lot of kills. All right, you should show your... Oh yeah, here's the other thing about favoritism. You should double down on your strengths in life. Don't be balanced. This is something that I think needs to be known. You should be exceptionally good at one or two things. Maybe like 2 things at least. Because the better you are at something, the more you can stand out. The more you can stand out, the more opportunities you have. So if you're like the best at something, that in of itself can create opportunities. If you are like really good at 2 things, that can like you need to be really good at like a few things or the best at a thing. Like that's what you should be focusing on. So if you have a unit who excels in something, you should double down on their strengths and just dive hardcore into that. So that way you get the best result. Otherwise, you're handling the unit poorly and you're mismanaging the resource. So Tamara is a good tank. I keep bringing her up because a lot of people rate her poorly. You leave her on Ike, you fix her speed. She already has good speed. She just needs a slightly lighter weapon and speed plus 3 to 5, and she can double things. And then you leave Ike on her, her defense starts leveling over time. She eventually gets good defense stat, and she has good speed, and she has good res. You now have a tank. You have a tank who can enemy phase mages, which is something General has a hard time doing. So it's a no-brainer. She can also proc Sandstorm, she can proc crits, she can one-round a bunch of things on enemy phase. There's other builds you can run on her, and also other units that can use Ike. But this is just an example of doubling down on her defensive aspect. I could also double down on her Sandstorm aspect with a build like the Sigurd Sandstorm spam build, where you go like Brave Lance, you run Sigurd for the build increase and the movement increase and the canter, and you just run around Sandstorming a bunch of things. She's still tanky enough to tank like 2 to 4 enemies and survive. So like there's different ways of doubling down on strengths of a unit, and you should absolutely show your unit's favoritism. Like Anna right now, she has Lynn, she has speed plus 3. I'm going to get her sword power once I get Roy back. So I'm doubling down on the sword damage, I'm doubling down on the speed, doubling down on the fact that she has a support with Fram, which increases her avoid rate on top of her high speed, making her able to avoid tank as well as get bonded shield by Fram. So I'm doubling down on every single aspect of everything I possibly can to maximize the effectiveness of my team. And that's what you should be doing. You shouldn't care if someone's like, oh, you're showing favoritism. Yes, I am. I'm showing favoritism to all my units. All of my units get favoritism. All of the units I want to use that are good get favoritism. I show myself favoritism too. I work out, I eat right, I sleep well. That's exactly what you should fucking do. You should min-max everything to its highest potential. There's no reason not to. Why would you run units in a way where you half-ass it? Where you do like half measures? If you've ever seen Breaking Bad, no half measures. Double down on everything. Yes, feed Tamara's defense boosters. Yes, give Alir strength boosters and Chloe strength boosters, or whoever the hell, give Kagetsu strength boosters. I don't care. Make them as good as humanly possible. Do that. That's a good idea. It's a dumb idea to clip your own wings for no reason. So you should use favoritism in all of your playthroughs. Now some people get this backwards and think that, oh, like because you give one unit some stat boosters, they're propped up by those. No, you're just doubling down on the strengths. You do this to every unit. Like I give Alir like 1 to 2 strength boosters. I give, I don't know, Anna maybe a speed wing or whatever, something. Actually, usually I don't give Anna anything, to be honest. She's usually fine without anything. She usually doesn't need anything. Speed wing can help her, but there's only like 2 or 3 of those. If I give a unit speed wing, it's probably gonna be like Gold Mary, because she has, like, Tamara doesn't need too much speed fixing. Alir's usually fine, Chloe's usually fine, Kagetsu's fine, Yunaka, units like this, they're usually fine. But you should absolutely show units favoritism, and you should do it in a way that's logical. So for example, if I want to like go attack here, like I can one round these easily. Not only, you know, she has high speed, whatever, then I can just chain guard there. And he can hit a tank. He can hit a tank or a mage knight. And I can just chain guard here. So here's the result of favoritism. Right? What is the result? This is the result. Unlimited power. Unlimited power. That's what you want. You don't want crappy units that suck, okay? You don't, when you run Kagetsu, do you feed him a kill map? No, you have him kill everything. He kills everything. You don't just have him sit there and hide in the corner and get, like, you know, deal some chip damage and, like, no, you dive him in there and kill shit. Like, that's what you do with Kagetsu. So I don't want to hear this, oh, this unit's only good with favoritism. No, you can have a bad Kagetsu. How do I know this? I have a bad Kagetsu. I have a playthrough where all of my other units got kills and Kagetsu's under-leveled and I'm like chapter 18 and he sucks. Okay? There can be such thing as a bad Kagetsu. You need XP, you need doubling down, you need favoritism for things to be functional, because this game has stat scaling. So when the enemies have crazy stats, you just can't kill them. You start hitting like nothing, you don't double anything. Like even the first few chapters you get Kagetsu, he's not S tier. If anyone says that, they're crazy. The chapter 12 Kagetsu is a meme. Chapter 13 Kagetsu is a meme. He needs to be on a better class and handed engraved weapons just like every other unit before he's remotely good and can one round. He can't even, his crit rate is terrible on his Wadao. Even when he does crit, it does like tickle damage. You can't tell me that like chapter 12 and 13 Kagetsu were top tier without DLC. It's just not true. So this notion that the S tiers are instantly good is bullshit. This notion that other units that require any level of investment are bad is bullshit. Most units are pretty solid, especially the mid-game units. So I don't want to hear this, oh, this is favoritism, this isn't. No, it's not that it's favoritism. It's just that you're using the units as you should be. And you double down on shit. That's what you do. It's what you should do. Because otherwise, do you want bad units that can't one round? I mean, you can make a bunch of those. You can have just a full team of bad units that can't one round. And then, you know, you're going to be shocked when you have to overcalculate, you know, 10 moves a turn when you could just have, like, 2 move calculations. Like, you'd have to calculate all these sequences just to secure kills, or you could just do this. Or you could just do that. You know, you can just kind of just get in there and just start killing things. What would you prefer? You know, do you want to spend all this extra time? I mean, you can. I mean, you could do stuff like this. Like, do I even want to have to calculate killing these? I've had runs where these enemies were a problem, where my units were bad, like on my early runs, where my team was, like, poorly min-maxed. I've had runs where those units were bad, for sure. Do I want to calculate that? Not really. Hold on, I actually made the wrong formation here. Here's what I meant to do. Let's do this. We'll use our brain here. Something that is illegal on this channel. Well, this is called a rotation. But you should absolutely double down. You should absolutely double down on your hard carries. Even if it's like a B or an A tier unit, if you plan on using that unit the whole run, there's no reason. So now, do I need to calculate that Anna's going to kill this? Or, oh my god, am I going to hit or not? No, she's just going to kill it. She's just going to evaporate the thing I put in front of her. That's what you want. What else would you want? Would you want bad units? No. So show your units favoritism. Now, babying units is a different thing. So that's why I created the distinction. Look at this. This is unlimited power right here. We're just like melting their army. That's exactly what you want. So, all right. So we've established what you want and proven why it's good, I think. And also, I think dispelled myths that favoritism is this like horrible thing where, you know, certain units greatly, like asymmetrically benefit from it. Every single unit benefits from favoritism. And I think that's what needs to be out there. I think that's logical. It doesn't make any sense to not show your hard carries favoritism, and people do it whether they realize it or not. And I'm tired of pretending like, you know, Kagetsu's the best thing in the game, and oh my god, he's so effortlessly good. It's like, no, very few units are effortlessly good. They need weapons, they need good weapons, they need engravings, they need good passives, they need to get a bunch of kills. This is true of every single unit. So I just don't like seeing bad arguments. Like, obviously, units like Etier, someone was like super hardcore about running Etier. They babied the shit out of her to get her to a point where she was worse than like most units on Warrior. That's an example of babying, and there's a big distinction between the two. So to wrap up, let's kill this guy because it's funny. This Grist guy, he's very sus, we'll say. He's very, just smack him around a bit, you know, get some sword power. Like, do you want your enemy, like, do you want your units to hit dudes and kill them? I do, you know, that's the way I view it. If my units aren't one-rounding consistently, I've failed to build good units. Like, I don't want to be dealing with bad units that suck, that miss, or whatever. I don't want to frustrate myself with bad units. That's a thing that happens in this game. When you have units that have like 70% hit rates and they don't double and they can't one-round anything, it just becomes a frustrating experience, because it's like if you were playing chess and you capture a piece, but then it has a chance to just not capture it. It's like, no, like, I want the skill to be in the calculation. I want the skill to be in the puzzle solving. I don't want the skill to be in the min-maxing. So if it's going to be in min-maxing, then fine. I'll min-max the shit out of this game. But, all right. So that's it for this one. Definitely more of a passionate topic video, we'll see, about min-maxing. I'm also doing my 7-man run to some degree, but I want to keep these shorter. I don't like when the videos get too long. But yeah, thanks for checking this out. Definitely like and subscribe. Peace.